Call baby when you say you will. I'm laughing because I decided to do this video. I've been thinking about it a bit, but when I decided to hit record, it was 3:33, and that song "Build Me Up, Buttercup" was on there, and I was like, you gotta love synchronicity. So I've been thinking about it because, even for any of you who have been following my journey for the last couple of years on this YouTube, I mean, I put some vlogs up there about me, like when I was going through the three herniated discs and all the different stuff going on with that, and like navigating that, and getting to my naturopath, and then getting to physical therapy, and like now I am here, and I can remember several times where I was panicked about stuff because I didn't know if I could work. Like most of the jobs I've done, throughout my life have either been like manual labor or like standing in one place doing stuff for a long time. And I realized too, like through observing different things, because this is something too, like in therapy that we talked about. Because my main, when we did therapy, it was like solo therapy for me, and then for my DM, and then us together. And in my solo stuff, I chose to work mostly on I guess where I had deficits with like neurodivergence, like ADHD, trying to get a little more organized, a little less scattered, and things like that. And one of the benefits of that was that I started like journaling more stuff about like how was I feeling this day, or what things did I do, and seeing connections to different things. And this is where like one of my first tips to those of you that may be dealing with osteoarthritis or a similar type of like degenerative joint condition or other arthritis is like your emotions most definitely affect what goes on in the rest of your body. Like any sort of arthritis is going to be in like an inflammatory condition. And when you are really stressed out, guess what goes up? Cortisol levels, right? And cortisol is something that runs through our system when we are stressed. It's meant to be there to like typically give us more energy to do things, but usually when like say you have a flare up, like when I have a flare up, sometimes it's hard to move. But like with osteoarthritis in particular, it's kind of an interesting balance because if you move too much, you overwork your joints. Whereas if you don't move enough, they get really stiff and it gets really painful. And if you don't do enough to move each day, it gets worse. So you've got both sides. You can't overwork things and you can't like underwork things. You can't be sedentary. And but the big thing is like that first tip is look at your emotions, uh, are you surrounded by people who support you, who love and care about you, and you feel that, and you feel that for them, and like do you have, are things going in a trajectory in your life that you really like? Because that can be a place to start. I'm definitely a fan of like, go to therapy or go to counseling, or even do your own research into like therapeutic methods. So you could do parapsychology. A lot of people have been finding good positive results through that in their own research for decades, right? Because you really want to make sure that you're in a good emotional state most of the time. It's not always going to happen, but even the other people that I've talked to, because I've gone through different groups and talked with different people with similar conditions, the same condition, things like that, and like mood definitely affects things. And there's all sorts of other chemicals and things that our body that produces when we're in a good emotional space too. And that's where I get to number two, which kind of segues in with number one, is if you're having challenges working because of osteoarthritis or anything similar, like really like any sort of challenge that you have, especially something like chronic pain related, pick a job that you know you would love, even if you had challenges doing it. Like that's something that like a few months ago, like I was in a kitchen job. I'm very well trained in kitchens. Like I'm not in like I'm going to say the fancier kitchens, but like I've done a lot of different work that is like food service and food based and being in various different kinds of kitchens and doing a lot of volunteer stuff based around food. I've cooked a lot at home. Like I have a lot of experience that it really wouldn't matter what kitchen job I was taking. I could get it and I could do it. However, those jobs are extra challenging, especially if there's not a lot of movement around. Because, like, if you're standing in one place and you're doing repetitive stuff like a lot and you're not then moving away, your joints are going to get stiffer because you're only like pivoting on a few joints. And especially a lot of places don't have the proper floor mats, or you might not have the proper shoes for that sort of like weight. And if you haven't worked on your core muscles and really like gotten to a place to where when you you are standing and moving, you are moving in the right way. Like, I suppose I'll add that in as another tip. Like number 3, make sure that you learn to study like your body's center of gravity. Like a lot of times, like people will focus on my feet hurt, but it's actually not based in your feet. It's that your core muscles are not strong enough. This is something that got repeated to me again and again. Like I had to focus on losing weight, got down past 100 pounds. I'm really happy about that. And then it was like strengthening things, but there are a lot of people don't recognize that they're getting up and down from seated positions incorrectly, and from laying down and up and down correctly, and that can create a whole lot of havoc, especially on your core muscles. And same thing, like if you're doing repetitive work all the time, you're probably not really working your core muscles a whole lot. So when I got fired from that one place, it was like, you know what, I had lots of job opportunities going into other kitchens. There's some that I might even do part-time. I just need to be conscious of, like, osteoarthritis stuff, because that's really the thing that dictates a lot of that stuff. But what I did was I said, you know what, I've got an opportunity. I've got a window of opportunity that I could pursue something that I've wanted to pursue for a long time and see how it goes, which is a combination of, I really wanted to work with horses, but I also wanted to work with farming. And I know, like, as per my sun sign and my Enneagram type, a lot of things that I know about myself, that farming, homesteading, working with different livestock, that would definitely be something that I would be interested in, even if it was challenging for me. And like years ago, before I even got the diagnosis, when I was with clinic doctors in Seattle that really weren't, they pretty much were like, here, take this and go home. And like, that was just the thing. There wasn't any real pursuit of it. Some of it was red tape. Some of it was the doctors. Some of it was trying to communicate stuff, But I knew that the way that I had gone in my trajectory of career was like not going to work with my body. And I kept thinking, I need to be retrained in something else, so that, something that works with my body. But we were homeless, and there wasn't a whole lot of like, okay, I'm going to do this. Like, I did think about going back to school, but no, I need to have income coming in now. I need to get something that isn't as hard to start in, but that I can catch up on. And I didn't even expect that I would find work with horses so quickly, but the area that, that called to my heart for many years, we just went into that area and started working on it. I mean, I've vlogged a lot of this, so you guys can go back and catch up on details if you want. I'm just summarizing, but getting out here, like, I thought there would be more just like general farm jobs, mucking stalls, things like that, but I got into an equestrian center, and they've been pretty awesome, and I've been able to learn things. And actually, I took it as a high compliment that, like, my first day doing like a full PM routine by myself, I was slow. Now, I knew that I wasn't slow intentionally, but like, I knew that it was going to take me longer because there were certain things I knew I didn't know yet, and there was like a lot of horses. I think that day I did something like 28 horses myself, and I still had not memorized all of their names or their stalls, so I'd take the time to stop and go make sure I knew what stall they were. I made a note in my phone. I'd go out and get them, so I know exactly where they go. So it took time, but I would have rather, just as I wanted, I would have rather taken the hit that I was slow than to have put a horse away in the wrong way. And I did do it. And I actually did complete it by the time that the ending of the PM routine was there. And then this last time, like, there were still some concerns that I would not be able to keep up, but I've actually been doing, like, my last one that I did primarily by myself, and I even put away some stallions by myself that, stallions are a little unpredictable, so, like, that's a new thing for me, but I did it. And then this time it was another person that had not worked with me yet assumed that I was going to be slow, and actually was like, wow, I didn't expect you to be that fast, like, and I even took my oldest with me to work one day because he's going to be starting school soon, and it was like a nice opportunity for him to come see. And like, he got to see just how much, like, you're going back and forth, like, there's acres of land. Sometimes you're dragging heavy hoses with you. You got to move buckets and feed and different things like that. And he didn't even get to see half of what I did because somebody else was kind enough to be there and doing that stuff. So he only got to see a little bit, but and I didn't even have him do all of the walking or all of the movement with me. I had him sit out of it because I knew what it felt like for me that first week. Like, it was a lot to keep up, and there's a lot of heavy buckets, and grain can be heavy. You're carrying it around, so can hay and different things like that. And even he said, like, by the end, like, he was pretty sore, and he said he was fine up until we started like picking up hoses to do troughs, and those were actually some of the small hoses. Like, they weren't even the heavy ones that are way out in the arenas and where the back paddocks are and stuff. But I've been thinking about it while I've been doing it, because it's like there have been other experiences in my life, and both mundane and spiritual, to where it's like my body's been capable of doing certain things, usually not for a prolonged amount of time, but like for long enough. And getting to this place to where I have this work with the stables and it feels good to my body, I can recognize, like, I had been looking at maybe hotel work and cleaning, because I knew if I could move around, I'm not always in the same space, that it might be good. But I also know that I did house cleaning in the past, more when flare-ups were a lot more common, and like some of the bending and stooping and stuff like that actually inflamed things. And so I've been thinking about this work that I've been doing, and it's like a lot of it, there is a lot of repetition in terms of, like, you walk back and forth to bring a horse in, right? Or you walk back and forth to fill up a hay bag. But it's not consistent, like standing there all the time doing a repetitive movement. It's more like if you took a progression for guitar chords in a song, and, like, you had the different uh, chords that you play, and it makes a long progression. So rather than just the same, like, repetitive movement like this, it's like this and 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 then back there, right? It's easier on my joints to do that. And one of the first things that I started working on when, like, the doctors really weren't helping much, like, this was years and years ago, but I really doubled down on it a couple of years ago after I had told my DM to go. So, like, I started walking, and it wasn't much. Like, sometimes all I could do is walk from the house to like, there was a church in a cul-de-sac, and, like, walk to the end to the stop sign and back. And that's all I could do at the time, and I was really still heavily overweight, but I did it, and I'd do it often. And I'd have a phone call with friends and go do that, and then I could walk up to my youngest son's school and do that. And then when I was able to, I would sometimes walk to pick him up from school, and we would walk back, and we did that more and more and more. And sometimes I'd walk out to to the store. Other times I would take my youngest out to different parks, and we would walk around together. Or I would go, like, say I'd be going and door dashing. That can sometimes, like, because I'm sitting so much and doing videos, that can inflame it. So I remember to, like, when I'm sore, rather than, like, oh, Tylenol, I go, oh, you know what? Because I've been sitting for too long, I need to get up and do some more exercise. I need to do my stretches. I need to do my things like that. Which, by the way, really helped also when we were having to sleep in the cars. Like, that being able to recognize, I think a lot of times when we feel pain, that, like, we want to, like, close in. We want to run away from it, especially if you've been dealing with any, like, chronic pain stuff. You want to go, oh no, it hurts, I don't want to do anything. And I had a number of years that I felt that way too, but don't do that, because then not only do you have the pain from your joints, I guess this be tip 4 or 5, not only do you have the pain from the joints, but then your muscles start to kind of atrophy, and you can get all sorts of, like, acid in your system from that. You can increase your, the factors that can create type 2 diabetes and stuff. I was really proud of myself, but, like, within the first year after my DM left, that I got my A1C down, which was something like they were concerned that I might develop type 2 diabetes, and that's one of the factors that they look at to determine that. And, like, I got down from there. I got my weight better, got my smoking better, ate better, listened to my naturopath better. Like, it really, a lot of that stuff helps. So make sure that you're also looking at those factors, but the tip is, don't stop moving. Like, when I knew the difference when I went to work at the stables, and, like, when I go and do that work, it's like that feeling of, like, say you go to the gym and you work out for a little bit, just that right amount of time, and you feel kind of like it's almost like a bruise, but you know it's not. Like, it's that feeling of muscle growth, like you've stretched those muscles in a good way. Like, that's how I felt when I started doing more farming work and doing work at the stables, versus whereas when I'm moving around, like it's even a large kitchen, like it's a lot of the same repetitive motions, and it's on just straight uh, brick floors or cement floors and things like that. Like, that hurt my joints to work on that, which is the same thing that took me out of working, because I was the restaurant manager for a Jack in the Box. So, like, that took me out of working, and then going back into that, it created that bad kind of pain. Whereas, like, doing the farming stuff, doing the horse, the stable groom stuff, that felt like a good kind of like, oh, I'm a little bit sore, but you know what? I can feel muscles here that I haven't used in a while. And then this is going to loop back, and I'm going to finish this video to the emotional thing. The work that I'm doing, I really love it. Like, I generally like working. Like, I liked doing, food in kitchens too, but there's something kind of just magical about working with horses, and even the people that are around them, and being on land where there are so many horses, and working with animals in general, that it's like, I don't end up in a state where it's like, oh, I have to go to work. It's like, I get to go to work today. I feel that way genuinely, because I picked something that felt good to me in, like, in a sense of my integrity, in a sense of, like, what I want to learn and things like that. And going into it that way, even when I do have days that it's like, oh, you know what, my elbow joints are going again, or like I'm having trouble gripping things, like, I can, to a certain degree, elevate my vibration emotionally and still get through it without, like, costing me any sort of work stuff. And I found different ways to compensate for, like, if my fingers are in pain, I can split up a bucket of grain and carry half of it while I'm going down and feeding the horses, and then come back for the other half to take to the different barns, or things of that nature. I can use a wagon more for different things, or stuff like that. But part of the reason I'm able to creatively problem solve like that is that I'm not going into negative emotions about things. I'm starting from a basis of, I like this work. I know that my body can do and take certain things. I know the feeling of, like, good pain versus bad pain. I know not to run away from pain, and I know that, like, continuing to do this will continue to bring good feelings, and there's so much to learn. I'm so excited about the summer, like, learning about the different disciplines and competitions, and seeing people come in and out and training their horses to do different things. I'm like, yeah, definitely fun. But with osteoarthritis, like, it is important. Like, I can remember days crying, going, like, I don't know what I can do, and everybody's wanting me to, like, jump back into some city work. It seemed like that was the only way anyone was going to be happy, and I knew that I could not go that route. And, like, the only options that, like, the state offered was, like, flagging, which I've done before. Cannot do it. Like, I had all the money in to get all the right stuff on it. It pays well, there's lots of work, but no, that's standing in place all the time, and often in cold weather. Cold weather often makes things worse if I'm not moving around and generating my own body heat. So take the time, go through and watch this video again, pick out those tips, because I'm worthy. But take the time to know yourself, get to know yourself emotionally, physically, nutritionally, educationally, financially, all those ways. And, like, don't stop believing, hold on to that loving feeling. Like, you can work, and work is a great thing to do. Like, I mean, say that all money and everything was the same, you would still be doing some kind of work. So think about what that work would be, and then go for it. And I bet you that you will have a much easier time working and being able to sustain yourself financially if you go for something that brings you that loving feeling in the first place. All right, y'all. I'll probably do other videos about osteoarthritis stuff, but I don't know how often, so I'll make a playlist for y'all if you like this stuff. And thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing.